Good evening. We're going to open the meeting. Lee?
Okay. Good evening. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Sparta Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be advertised by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Sparta Board of Education office, 18 Mohawk Avenue, as designated by the Board of Education, for posting of such notice in a public place. Written notice was emailed on September 19th, 2023 to the New Jersey Herald, the Star Ledger, tapintosparta.net, and to the Township Clerk, specifying the date, time, and place of this meeting.
Thank you. Roll call, Chairman.
Ms. Collier? Ms. Keeling?
Here.
Mr. Knapp?
Here.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Pelesci? Ms. Pitzer?
Here.
Ms. Sealander? Dr. Serrano? Mr. Morris?
Here. Okay, we all rise for Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're now going to convene into closed session to discuss legal and other private matters. We'll hopefully be out by 7 o'clock. Can I get a motion?
Motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. welcome. We're going to resume session. Before we do that, can we get a roll call, Joanne?
Ms. Collier? Ms. Keeling?
Here.
Mr. Knapp?
Here.
Ms. McMichael?
Here.
Mr. Pelesci? Ms. Pitzer?
Here.
Ms. Seelander? Dr. Serrano? Mr. Morris?
Here. Okay, we're going to start this evening with student representative reports.
All right.
No.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Here we go. Yeah. So, good evening. So last month, I had the pleasure of introducing our new student representatives for the 23-24 school year. I introduced them by name. Today, I had the pleasure of actually meeting them and discussing why they wanted to do what they wanted to do and how our board meetings, how the process works and what their role would be. It was a very great conversation today. So I would like to reintroduce by name, and then they can introduce themselves a little bit so you can get to know them. Sarah Weisbeck and Parker Hine.
Yeah, is the red light
Is the
on?
red light on?
There it is. All right. Hi, guys. I'm Parker Hine. Nice to meet all of you. Just some things about me, some other clubs that I'm involved in besides our student government. Start off in our student government, I am our executive treasurer. On top of that, I'm also the vice president of our DECA club, and I'm also the director of fundraising and the director of recruiting in our Model United Nations club. I'm also a part of other clubs and societies throughout our school, and I also participate in lacrosse, and I also run track in the winter. Thank you.
Nice.
Hi, this is far from me. I'm Sarah Weisbeck. I'm the executive president for Student Council at Sparta High School. I'm also the vice president of Science National Honor Society, as well as member of Math, History, and National Honor Societies. I participate in many other clubs and activities at Sparta High School, and I'm a volunteer for Sparta Ambulance Squad.
And then what we also discussed today would be the process of how they would share their student representative report. So last year, we had student representatives, but then we also had student council come to the mic and offer the student council report. They're going to serve in both roles this year. So they are the representatives, and they will be offering the report as well.
So for the Spur Schools report, the high school homecoming dance will be on Saturday, October 14th, with the homecoming football game being the night before on October 13th. We are also planning a fundraiser for all 4 grades at the Lafayette House in March. This will be a fashion show partnered with local businesses that showcase both the students and the businesses. This fashion show will include a sit-down dinner and other events.
So then, leading into our homecoming week, we have our Spirit Week coming up through 10/10 to 10/13. Every day is going to be a new theme kind of to raise the school spirit. On top of that, on that Friday the 13th, we're going to have a pep rally. The day before homecoming, we're going to have games in between it kind of to get everyone involved through all grades, freshman through senior. And then also there's going to be the game on Friday, and these are all events that are leading up to get ready for the homecoming. That's going to be on the 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion.
Thank you, Christine. Second.
Second.
Leanne. Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, it's time to turn it over to Dr. Beck with the superintendent's report.
Thank you again. I would like to begin by welcoming everyone to the 23-24 school year. As we already are nearly a month into the school year, I would like to thank all of the teachers and staff for their hard work and the parents and community for their support as we navigated our way through another successful opening. On this evening's agenda, you will see a resolution recommending the next principal of Mohawk Avenue School, who would be Ms. Katie Madsen. Ms. Madsen currently serves as the vice principal of Alpine Elementary School and has been an administrator in our district for 10 years. Ms. Madsen stood out among the dozens of applicants due to her experience in the district, track record of instructional leadership, and ability to work collaboratively with teachers and administrators. Ms. Madsen will be starting her position of principal of Mohawk Avenue School when she returns from her maternity leave at the end of February. We will be posting and searching for an interim to assume that role for the months of January and February, and we will ensure that there are smooth transitions throughout that process. And also, upon her approval tonight, we'll post immediately for the vice principal position at Alpine and have a smooth transition there as well for a vice principal position. During last month's board meeting, there was brief discussion regarding the comparative ranking of schools in our district. Coincidentally, a few days after our August board meeting, U.S. News and World Report published their annual rankings. Sparta High School earned high national and metro area rankings in 23-24 best high schools, which U.S. News released on August 29th. By earning a national ranking, Sparta High School achieved status as a U.S. News best high school. 2 updates on the grant front. The preschool expansion funding that I mentioned during last board meeting, as I stated in last month's board meeting, we applied for the state's preschool expansion grant. While we have not yet received official word, all signs are pointing to an encouraging outcome to that application. The preschool expansion grant will fund the expansion of tuition offerings for our preschool program, both within the district and as we look to partner with community preschool providers to house an expanded program. The gist of that expansion grant is to expand the program out into the community with service providers that are already providing preschool services, but in collaboration with the school district. Also, high-impact tutoring. We are waiting on official word from the state on our high-impact tutoring grant application, which was submitted last week. High-impact tutoring grant is to support districts to provide high-dosage intensive tutoring by focusing on high-impact tutoring interventions for students that have been disproportionately affected by the pandemic. This grant opportunity prioritizes districts with elementary schools and their students in grades 3 and 4, but will allow local districts awarded the grant to serve additional students as needed and optimizes funding for targeted tutoring through identified vendors or organizations in addition to schools and districts that meet established research-based criteria. Basically, the gist of that grant is that we would partner with a vendor and or a community entity that already provides tutoring and provide more high-impact tutoring for students that are identified to need it, and it would be funded from the state of New Jersey. As an up-to-the-minute update, actually, this just wrapped up late yesterday, early today. I'm proud to announce that the paved ADA accessible path from Castles Field to the track has now been completed. While there are still some finishing touches that need to take place, once we received final approval from the DEP, the project took place immediately. In yet another wonderful collaboration between Sparta Township and the Sparta Township Board of Education, the DPW Roads Department prioritized this project and completed it within a week of receiving DEP approval. They did all of this at a fraction of the price it would have cost us if we had to utilize a private paving company. I would like to once again thank Sparta Township for their continued support of our students and schools and for their continued collaboration. Also on the topic of board and township collaboration, I would like to acknowledge Elise Sisko and Andrew Buchanan for being selected to serve on the Revolution New Jersey 250 committee formed by Sparta Township. The committee will be tasked with developing local efforts to commemorate New Jersey's upcoming 250-year anniversary. And last but not least, I would like to congratulate and thank our lone retirement on this evening's agenda. Suzanne Jaravalev will be retiring soon after she has served our district for 33 years. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Dr. Beck. Ms. Rossi, do you have anything? No? Surprising. Okay, moving on. Do we have any communications? Okay. Delegate liaison reports. Does anybody have anything? No? Just to piggyback off what Dr. Beck said with working with the township, we've been having meetings regularly with them on other projects that they want to look into. So it's baby steps, a long ways away, about building linear paths throughout our properties. So we'll keep you updated on that. Do you have anything? No? Okay, moving along. Public comment number 1. Public comments are invited on all matters pertaining to only action items at this time. Please state the action item number as well as your name, municipality, and or group affiliation, if appropriate, for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your attended 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again until public comment number 2. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The Board Administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments at the conclusion of the public participation.
Is there a place where the agenda was that I missed?
What?
Copies of the agenda?
Can I grab an agenda from somewhere that,
Yes, when you came in, there was a QR code you could scan on the,
a QR code I can scan?
Yeah.
yeah.
So the only way I could
No, you could access it via our website, too.
Yeah.
was through a QR code and there were no agendas printed?
No, we stopped that practice a while ago.
Why?
This is not a back and forth.
Yeah, it's this one that's on the agenda, so we're not going to talk about it. So,
Oh, we're not, okay, so I have to wait till we talk about it.
yeah, or use your phone to access.
You wouldn't just,
Yeah, pretty much.
why would you not just print
Just our public comment.
Does anybody want to start public comment?
QR code to get to the agenda? I feel like this would be really difficult.
Ma'am,
You're holding up this portion of the meeting. If you're not going to stop talking, you're going to be asked to leave.
There we go. Okay. Why don't you call up the first speaker?
Is there anyone for public comment? Number 1? No? Okay, can I get a motion to close public comment number 1?
Now you got people coming up.
Oh, well, never mind.
I'll also give everybody 1 minute notice before the 3 minutes is up.
Thank you. My name's Doug Lehman. I'm the principal at Helen Morgan School. I also live in Sparta. I'm the principal of Helen Morgan School, grades 4, 5. And before that, I was a high school history teacher and administrator and a middle school assistant principal. And everything I learned, in those positions, I think the best indicator.
Mr. Lane, what topic are you
I'm
talking
sorry,
on?
Kurt. 16.7.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. I've learned that the best indicator of student learning is not the answers they give, but the questions they ask. Every year I say to fifth graders, I'm excited for them because I think they're ready to explore challenging topics that explain who we are, where we've come from, and where we're going. Questions like, why didn't more people do something to stop the Holocaust? Or why did slavery endure for so long in our country? Last year, our first year of implementing the health and PE lesson in fifth grade on gender roles, our teachers who did it were so impressed by the questions our students were asking. It was as if the students were relieved to know they could ask an adult a question about something that they heard about or were thinking about. I'm thankful that my children and your children have other adults like Mr. A and Mr. Markovich and Mrs. Farrell and all the teachers that my kids had in their experience in Sparta, that they have them in their life, professional educators that they can connect with and ask questions of. Back to that lesson, even though I supported how the lesson was implemented, I still absolutely respect a parent's choice to opt out of it. But I'm worried as a parent and as a principal and as a citizen that the answer to teaching of a topic that makes a group of people uncomfortable is to make it an at-home lesson and remove that choice. What's next?
1 minute.
What's next? What's the next topic that either this board or even future boards are going to be uncomfortable with and to respond, and the response will be to take it out and to teach it at home, because we all know what's going to happen when we teach, in most cases, when we ask for the lesson to be taught at home, My concern is that when we stifle students' ability to ask questions, we all lose, the students, the adults, in the present and the future. As a parent and a principal, I have the utmost confidence that our teachers can guide our children to understanding the world around them. And I worry that decisions like this, that take choice away from parents, and that remove the role of the certified trained educators, suggest that you do not have the same confidence. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Any other?
Is there anybody else? Okay, motion to close public comment.
Motion.
Hang on.
Need a second?
We-
Oh.
Hi, I'm Kate Madison, 22 Saddle Ridge Road.
Hi.
I'm just waiting for Dr. Beck.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to talk tonight, but since the principal of my daughter's school bravely stood up here and spoke about what it is you guys are about to do with 5 people on the board, I thought I'd get up and just speak as a parent who has a 5th grader. You are changing the course of my child's education this year. A few people on this board, not this person, not Dr. Beck, not Mr. Lehman or her teachers, but some people who were elected on this board who decided after a thorough survey of this community, where a large majority of parents chose for this curriculum to move forward, you're going to take it away from my kid. And that's abhorrent. I want my daughter's principal and teachers teaching my children. I didn't sign up to teach this, and now you're forcing me to. Shame on all of you.
I came up here mainly to, my name's Jacob, I'm from Rutgers, New Brunswick. I came up here mainly to ask a clarifying question because new business is before the second public comment on the agenda. If there are items brought up in new business, will there be another chance for the audience to talk before those items are voted on?
No.
No. So now would be the time to talk about something that could potentially be brought up in new business?
No.
No, but it is on the agenda, correct?
New businesses, yes.
Okay, so we can talk about something that might be brought up in new business?
The only things that can be discussed are something that's specifically on the agenda.
Action items on the agenda.
Action items.
So if there's something
if
that's,
something is
if there's
brought-
something that's discussed or voted on, you can always avail yourself of sending a communication to the board by email or certainly coming to a future meeting.
So if something's brought up during new business, we won't have a chance to talk about it?
No, because the new business is before, I'm sorry, the public participation is before the new business.
But we can't talk about anything happening during new business. We
That's
can't
right.
talk, even though it is on the agenda.
Not at this meeting, but at the next meeting, you certainly can.
So even though it's on the agenda, we can't talk about new business
That's
during
right.
agenda
Because then it
item
would be
public
anything. Anything
comments.
could be hypothetically new business. Yes, that's correct.
If there's something brought up in new business, you can absolutely talk about it in public comment number 2, which is immediately after.
But that is after a vote, is that correct?
After they've made the vote, yes.
Everything, this
that-
is for action items only that are currently on the agenda right here.
So you're not taking any action on any new business?
There might be.
We haven't got to new business yet.
So now is
But
the
you
time
could
to
certainly
talk about
comment,
new
you could certainly
business.
comment in the second public participation session on anything that was discussed or voted on, perhaps by motion during new business. Yes, you can comment. We wouldn't prohibit anybody from discussing anything that was discussed.
And that
during
is
new
after
business.
the vote in new business?
Yes, that's right.
So we can't talk about the things that you may be voting on?
That's right.
Okay, so this really isn't a public comment on agenda items if we can't talk about the items on the agenda. Is that correct?
You can
I think I've clarified the answer to the question,
You can
sir.
speak that, whatever's on this agenda right here, you can speak of.
Including new business?
There's nothing listed under new business.
So nothing will be brought up under new business?
I
That's not what
don't,
we said.
I don't know.
Okay, so,
And you could comment on anything that's brought up in new business during public participation, yes.
but that is after the
Yes,
the vote.
I think we've explained that, yes.
So if that's after the vote,
If you
that
have-
is an
I'm
action
gonna-
item.
If you have anything to talk about on the agenda currently, an action item, you can. If not, you can wait till second public participation.
Okay, so basically,
Yes.
I want, on the record, I want to just say that this board is not going to listen to its constituents before
Again,
voting
you're
on
not,
something.
you're not talking about anything that's on the agenda.
I'm talking.
But
You
this,
can-
it's not
you
what
can
this
let-
time is for.
Yeah,
So
I'm
now-
talking about the agenda, and about the agenda,
And
the
what
board is
action-
not
What
listening.
action number are you talking about?
I'm talking about action number 20.1, new business. And the board is going to have new business. That's my time. I'll step back. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. You sign in?
How you guys doing? I'm speaking regarding the Personnel and Policy Committee meeting minutes regarding the transgender policy. It was brought up, okay?
It's not on the,
It was discussed during the Personnel and Policy Committee.
it's not on the
But
agenda.
that's not an action item, that's not an action item on the agenda.
But
That's an action
That's
item
an-
on the agenda.
That was-
This applies to that. This applies to that.
If that's the item he's talking about, he can talk about any action item on the agenda. Ma'am, you got to stop calling out tonight, please, please.
Could you please state your name?
Yes. How you guys doing? My name is Sean Carroll. I live here in Sparta, and I'm the father of 2 young kids who are in the Sparta public schools. I've been a pediatric nurse for the last 20 years. I'm dedicated to the health and safety of children. And I'm also transgender. And I transitioned back in the 90s before it was ever talked about. We had never heard of the word before. I was, dealing with a lot of stuff. A lot of self-loathing, a lot of depression. My parents had no clue what was going on. I had no clue what was going on. It was a real hard time for all of us. But thankfully, it got to the point where we needed help, and my parents did that. They got me the help that we needed. It was a bumpy road, but here I am 20 years later, married, kids, living here, happy in Sparta, okay? My parents became big supporters of mine, but it wasn't always that way. When we first started to understand what was going on, my first thought was, I'm going to lose my family, And as a kid, that's a horrible thought. Even as an adult, that's a horrible thought, okay? That fear absolutely paralyzed me. And while my parents' reaction to my news was lukewarm at best, thankfully, I was fortunate to have them, okay? And that's a lot more than most kids have, unfortunately. There's a lot of LGBTQ kids who are kicked out of their house, who are abused, who've run into a lot of problems, okay?
1 minute.
So I want to make sure that we are protecting these kids that are in our school, okay? I don't want kids to be in a position where they feel like they don't have any kind of safe space. And unfortunately, a lot of these kids don't have a safe space at home, okay? At the end of the day, it boils down to making sure that our kids know that we're safe for them to talk to us, okay? As parents, we need to make sure that we're telling them that we're loving, we're supportive, and I think we need to be really careful about the message that we're sending as parents, especially as board members, if we're sitting here and trying to make these policies that don't take that into account, okay? If you're worried that your child might be transgender or questioning their sexuality or any other LGBTQ-related issue, talk to them. Make sure that they know and believe that you have their unconditional love and that you're a safe space and a safe person
Thank you,
for
sir.
them.
Have a seat.
Thank you.
Yeah, really, first and foremost, I think it is really important
Can
to
I have your
emphasize.
name and address, please? Thank you.
Kate Salerna, Sparta, New Jersey. You know why I don't give my address. I don't feel comfortable.
And what
I've been
action number-
harassed.
What action number are you talking on?
Okay, I'm talking on, the sex education item.
What action number is that?
Oh, my God. Thank you, 16.7, sir. Okay. I am only here to read this statement, which is as follows. I am one of those trans youth students who attends high school. I was outed by my nurse, and it caused a lot of emotional and physical abuse at home. She did it without me knowing, then apologized. I ended up getting sent to a homeless shelter and a hospital.
This isn't in the curriculum part of the agenda.
It is, because it's talking about sex education and
Has
how it
nothing to
applies.
do with
Yes, it does.
16.7.
Sir, and you are on record trying to stop me from talking
That's fine. I can be on
in
record all
these
night.
exact situations where you have let other people talk in the exact same situation. Just let me read the statement.
This has nothing to do
Be a
with
bigger
16.
person,
I'm
Mr.
trying to run a
Morris.
meeting here, and it's
Mr.
hard to do it
Morris,
when no one follows the
Officer
proper
Morris,
protocol.
be a bigger person and let me say this statement.
Does it pertain to the action item? Because there's a
Yes,
second.
it does. It pertains to the sex education because this is a person who has been affected by it. So if you are unwilling to hear it,
The teaching of the curriculum,
okay.
all right, before we go any further, we're talking on action items only. If we're going to talk about the curriculum, it's stuff that's taught in the schools. Is anyone else?
I'll move to public comment, too.
Okay. Okay, that's fine.
It's 16.
All right. Hi. There we go. You got to get pretty close to this one. My name is Mark Marusic. I am a resident of Sparta. I have a child in the schools and the high school. And I'm here to comment on 16.7, which is education curriculum. So I think it's important to have an inclusive curriculum that, not that the kids don't already have it, because like TikTok is very LGBTQ, but to have a curriculum that includes the realities of sexuality and the realities of people, even the minorities in terms of sexuality and gender. And I guess that's my comment. I think it's just important that they have that and feel that it's not being ignored or erased. That's all.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Dr. Frida Lewis. I'm talking on action item 16.7. I am a parent of three children in Sparta. None of my children attend Sparta public schools anymore, partly because my second child, who is in the middle school and doing very well, Sparta has an excellent education. She felt that Sparta was not very inclusive, not only of minority groups, but especially the LGBTQ community. And she wanted to speak tonight. I wasn't going to speak tonight. I'll keep it brief. As an OBGYN, gender, sexual identity is very important. I am delivering more and more families who consist of transgender patients, homosexual patients, etc. These are people in our community having families. Your children will be around these people and need to understand these things, and many of these children will have no way of truly understanding because we don't know the proper terminology or anything else with regards to in how to address people properly. So for a basic education, we should have basic ideas of how to speak to people appropriately, how to treat people equally, how to understand that even if we do not look like others or behave like others, none of that will make us become that person. So if there is a fear, that our children or that your children will become transgender, homosexual, etc., then there would be no LGBTQ community because they did not have a voice. They have only been exposed to heterosexual teachings, whether it's in school systems, with regards to health, et cetera. It's amazing how many adult people are not aware of their body parts, and how it is in relation to their sexual identity and gender.
1 minute.
Understand that gender and sex are two very different things, and I think what bothers me more than anything is the fact that people put them together and they are completely different things. So why would we not want to use professionals to teach these things so that your children can at least go out into the world, Sparta is a very small part of the world, can go out into the world educated. The purpose of public school education is to educate children and to have them understand the broader view of the world, and it makes no sense to have children taught by people who have no idea what this topic is about. Thank you.
I just have a clarifying question. Just a clarifying question. So I think that the problem here is that we want to follow the rules and we want to talk about what's on the agenda and what you're voting for. But one of your members went on a media site this week and said that you were bringing up the transgender policy. She was going to repeal it in open session. And these people, a lot of us are here because we want to talk to you about it before it's voted on. So all I'm asking is, if that's still the plan, Leanne, if you plan to bring up the transgender policy, I'm sorry, Leanne via Kurt, if you plan to bring up the transgender policy, we want to talk to you before a vote, and that is the problem.
It's not on the agenda right now.
So how can we talk about something? A lot of your constituents are here who want to talk to you before the vote.
If it comes up.
Before the vote. Can you do us that? Can you give us that?
I'm not.
Can the whole
policy.
board, via Kurt, give us that?
No.
So you're just going to bring it up and vote on it without letting your constituents talk about it?
If it happens.
If it happens?
If.
Okay, so then I'm going to talk about the gender-related curriculum.
Okay, you can. Yep, just start.
Okay.
Okay, you can start over.
So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so then I just,
16-7?
Okay. Having a child who identifies as an LGBTQ community member is not a reflection of one's parenting. However, how one handles the revelation, whether they provide support, and if they wish to have a future relationship with that child is 100% a reflection of parenting. I know that there are parents in this community, in this room even, that are anti-LGBTQ. But maybe if your child tells you that they identify as a member, you can use this as an opportunity to learn more about the gay and trans community and perhaps even shift your views on it. Who better to show us through another lens to look through than our children, whom we love unconditionally and are worthy of our patience, respect, and an open mind. Repealing this curriculum will put Sparta children in serious harm's way. According to recent studies, 1.4% of youths ages 13 to 17 identify as transgender. And sadly, only 1 out of 3 trans kids feel safe in their home. This translates to 30 Sparta students who could potentially be abused and/or neglected due to the repeal of this curriculum. This curriculum is not to hide information from good parents. It is to protect good children from bad parents. For the 5 years that this curriculum has been in place, teachers have been sharing information with parents who provide a safe home for their trans child. This curriculum prevents forcing a teacher to out a trans child to parents when the child fears their safety should their parents be made aware. It is appalling that you are removing this safeguard for children and forcing our teachers to put students in unsafe situations. I also want to note that repealing and rewriting this curriculum is going to cost us a lot of money. 3 New Jersey districts who did this are currently embroiled in lawsuits within the state. Our attorney, Mark Zittimer, is representing Marlboro in this case. And if you move forward tonight, Sparta is going to end up in an expensive legal battle as well. By repealing this policy, you are agreeing to earmark thousands of our taxpayer dollars for legal fees in a district that you just raised taxes 5.8%. You eliminated several staff positions last year due to cost. Where will you find money for this? I will be personally keeping a running tab on how much this endeavor is costing Marlborough, and I will write weekly LTEs if need be to ensure that Spartans are aware of the next tax increase you are creating for us. It is reported that at least one LGBTQ youth attempts suicide every 45 seconds in the U.S.
30 seconds.
You could leave this policy alone right now, save us a boatload of money we don't have, turn your focus to our children's education and academics, and ensure that 30 children continue to sleep safely in their beds tonight. Or you could take part in potentially increasing a child suicide rate. This town will not forget what you decide to do, I assure you.
Again, that policy is not on the agenda. I mean, she started one way and diverted another. I'm going to let you know right
Caitlin
now.
Gagnon, Sparta.
It's not going to go that way, so don't
No
even
problem.
bring the policy up, because
Oh,
it's
no,
not
no.
on the agenda.
You don't have to tell me what to do. Believe me, I'm talking about
I'm
the
not-
curriculum.
I'm
I'm
just-
talking
I'm
about
just
sex ed
making a
curriculum.
statement.
Understood. Sex ed curriculum, I don't have the number, but I'm sure we pay enough
16.7.
mark enough to look it up. So Tara Rossi and Dr. Beck, I have specific questions for you because I think everyone is tired of hearing our opinions on this matter. And just like I said to you at the last meeting, we need a leader to step up. We need a leader to step up here. You have Mr. Lehman stepping up. We need a leader. The curriculum committee meeting minutes show it was the majority of the committee, board members, that discussed the changes to the sex ed curriculum, making all topics related to gender identity in 5th and 6th grade optional take-home lessons. Ms. Rossi and Dr. Beck, is this not administering the district? Isn't the super or assistant super supposed to make curriculum recommendations that the board is then supposed to consider? Number 2, is doing this jeopardizing our district's funding or compromising our adherence to state standards again? Does this potentially challenge NJLAD or NJLAD as differential treatment based on gender identity and sexual orientation? We are not taking the entire lesson home. We are exclusively taking home the lesson portion that applies to gender identity. How is that not discriminatory? Number 3, what are your personal opinions on taking this portion and this portion only of the sex ed curriculum home when nearly 80% of Sparta parents, a hard fact, but a fact nonetheless that you must swallow, 80% of Sparta parents opted in to receive these lessons from teachers? What are your opinions to take only these lessons home? And the last thing I will say, and it is reflected in the agenda, and it is reflected in the committee meeting minutes, that our board attorney advised, thank you, our board attorney advised our board members in personnel committee how to go about a certain policy and how to go about bringing it up at the meeting and how to go about undermining the public and hearing from the public before the vote. It is unacceptable. And you must do something about it. And we need a leader to step up and do something about it. So if you won't hear the community and what everyone, both sides, have to say about it before you do something about it, that says a lot about character, it says a lot about integrity, and it says a lot about whether or not you actually believe that what you're doing is right or wrong.
Scott Knoll, Sparta, speaking on 16-7. But first, I want to congratulate the district on making it into the rankings. That's really cool. It makes me feel good about being here in Sparta. I have a lot of emotion around 16-7 as well. I want to try to keep that out of it. What I want to say is this is a public school, and it is my understanding that one of the key roles of a public school is to prepare its students for public life. The curriculum in place is there to prepare our kids for the 21st century. And if you think they're going to go into a modern workplace the modern military, modern public service, or have modern relationships with grown-ups outside of Sparta, we are doing these kids an enormous disservice if we're not giving them professional education from a nationally ranked school district that we've all paid for on this issue, right? That's why we're here. That's literally the mandate of everyone here. It's why we put kids in public school, so they get public education to prepare for the future. So I would urge you to think about that and think about the world that it is our responsibility as parents and also as the body that administers the school for how we prepare our children for life outside of school. There's no context where this isn't relevant and doesn't benefit from having trained educators administer it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. Kylie Kelly, Sparta, New Jersey. I'm speaking tonight as a parent who has a 6th grader coming up. As a parent, I always joke with my children. Oh, I'll wait for this. Okay. It's okay. It's okay. I'm also a teacher, so I get it. Right.
Go ahead, Kate, thanks.
So as a parent, I always joke with my kids, I think your teachers see me more or see you more than I do. And it's true, right? They're in school for a long period of time, and then after school, you're running here, running there. And it's just so comforting to know that we have such great educators in this school district that I'm leaving my children with. And they're all professionals. And it's hard. It's hard to teach a kid a topic that they're hearing about on the bus, in the gym. They're hearing about, anywhere on TikTok, if they're on social media. Even if they're not on social media, these kids are hearing this stuff all over. I am a witness to it. I work in the middle school. I don't know if I can I don't even know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm a teacher, I'm a professional. I'm a family life professional, and I have been teaching health for 22 years, and nothing much has changed, except that we are now denying them an education, a safe place for these kids. It is disheartening.
Thank you.
My name is Alicia Amiel, Sparta, talking about 16.7 from the standpoint of a curriculum decision. I just want to understand that how the decision was made to make this an at-home taught by individual parents. So I know that a lot of parents don't support, say, Common Core math. If I get enough parents in the audience to say, I don't like Common Core math, but Sparta School District will go back to teaching it the old way, and in order to follow the rules, they'll just send home links that say, well, this is how we're supposed to be teaching it. Or if that only applies to things like LGBTQ issues or trans issues. So I want to know the rules as far as getting the curriculum changed as a parent, because that seems to be the motivator for having the curriculum sent home rather than teaching it in school.
Hi, my name is Steve Latz. I'm a resident of Hardyston. I was together with some Sparta parents a week ago who were very concerned about some of the issues facing you, but were afraid to come and speak to you. I said I would come and share some of my thoughts. I'm speaking on a matter of process on the agenda. I won't repeat what many of the parents have so eloquently said about their concerns. If your attorney has advised you that you can bring up a board policy under new business and take any action on it without advertising it in advance on the agenda, going through a first reading and a second reading, then I urge you to seek alternate counsel on that question. And all of you, and I happen to know this because I was a member several years ago for 9 years of the South Orange Maplewood Board of Education and chaired its policy committee and played several other roles with the New Jersey School Boards Association. And I would suggest to board members, whatever your position is on various issues, that you avail yourselves of your right as a member district of New Jersey School Boards to call up their legal department. They have some of the top education lawyers in the state. Some of them are younger, some of them are older, and ask them a question of whether one can consider any change to a policy under new business. And I think you'd want to do that because this is a very fraught issue. Whatever your position is on the issue in question of transgender students, it's a very fraught issue that causes all of us adults great concern and agitation.
1 minute.
Not so much younger people in their 20s. But so you want to give this due consideration, and you want to hear from all sides of the community on a policy issue. And in fact, in the Code of Ethics, which you all signed and agreed to, and under the Open Public Meetings Act, which you are also subject to, you can't discuss or consider or vote on policy matters without engagement of all people affected. And in this case, that would mean your staff, that would mean your administrators, that would mean the students themselves as well as parents. And I suggest you'll probably have some raucous meetings talking about this subject, but I strongly urge you, if somebody does bring this up.
Sir.
Somebody does bring this up under new business.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I'm just finishing my
No,
sentence.
your 3 minutes is up. Thank you.
Hi, good evening. My name is Amanda Olasino. I am a resident of Andover Township, New Jersey. And I'm speaking on 16.7 because I'm concerned about the whittling down of sexual education in public schools, especially in our county. As a young person, I went to Andover Regional Schools and then went through Newton High School. I was able to get a sex education from my health teachers and whatnot, but I have to say it's not usually the most inclusive or doesn't really prepare you the best. So then to be whittling down what you're offering kids on that topic is only going to undermine their success and their sense of self as they become adults. When I was a student at Newton High School, I used to look at Sparta District and think, wow, you guys are really cool. You got lots of money over here. You do all the good plays. You know, you had all the resources. We were a little bit more humble at Newton High School, and you know, I love it for that. Don't get me wrong. But I thought that you guys had something figured out over here, that the parents wouldn't be as discriminatory or wouldn't be as closed-minded. And it turns out that those sorts of things happen everywhere, regardless of resources and income. I'd like to just ask the board, and Mr. Morris, I'd like to ask you specifically, to take into consideration that sex education in the broad sense, it's a sensitive topic for a lot of families, many of whom would prefer just to sweep it under the rug and never talk about it again. My mom was one of those. She didn't want to tell me about the birds and the bees or what was going to happen, you know, to my ever-changing female body, but my teachers did that. And it was embarrassing, and it was awful, as I'm sure a lot of us experienced in growing up. It's hard. But when you start removing pieces of education like this from the children that you serve, you may not be preparing them to protect themselves or to advocate and stand up for themselves. You know, with what little sex education I had, I still very much didn't understand, you know, the world around me.
30 seconds.
And so I implore you, in today's day and age, 35 years later, I only hope that you can be expanding and improving on this curriculum and not diminishing it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, motion to close.
Motion.
Thanks, Walter. Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Moving on. Okay. For personnel and policy, before starting, I'd like to make a motion to repeal policy 5756. Wait, you can do it next one. Remember, second one, do it. Okay. I already started this. Okay. Yeah.
Be a superintendent right now, please.
Well, yeah, you gonna make comments? What? All right. Yeah. And can moving on with the motion, I make a motion to table 5756, policy 5756.
Table it or repeal it?
Repeal it, sorry. Not table. I'm making a motion to repeal 5756. Can I get-
Motion. Ma'am, you got to stop calling out, please. You've got to stop calling out, please, or we're going to have to ask security to have you removed, and we don't want to have to do that, so please stop calling out. Is there a second on Mr. Morris's motion?
Okay, discussion?
No. No. The administration can talk.
Roll call?
Dr. Beck, would you say something?
Can we please?
Ma'am, please. Ma'am,
Can we make-
ma'am, you cannot call out and
You can't
disrupt
say
a
anything
public
right
meeting,
now.
please. There's another opportunity, there's another, ma'am,
No, I'm
ma'am.
not. Right now, I'm not.
There's another opportunity for public comment, and you will certainly be able to offer your opinions. Ms. Black, can we have a roll call, please?
Ms. Keeling.
Yes.
Mr. Knapp.
Yes.
Ms. McMichael. Ms. Pitzer.
Yes.
Mr. Morris.
I did not vote. I'm so sorry. Can we pause for a second? It's hard to do business like this.
If you're going to sit here and heckle from the audience, you're going to be escorted out. It's very simple. Okay, thank you. Can you continue with the roll call with Lee?
Ms. McMichael.
Yes, before voting for this, I would like to comment on it, discuss it. I think it's appropriate that we all probably weigh in on it. Sure. Oh, is that okay?
Of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I asked for discussion.
Okay, right, so I'm discussing. I think it's important to acknowledge the statutes put forth through the state, as they are important, and they protect our transgender youth. And those are extremely important things that we already have in place. The line, I believe, in the policy that was giving some pause and some concern was parental notification. And I know, as people understand, parents do hold a very important role in helping out their students, their kids, the youth. And those things would not remain changed. They would remain as is through the statutes that are already set forth through the state. This is a chance for us to just revisit the parental notification piece. And so with that, I vote yes.
Anybody else? Okay, Joanne, continue, please.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, motion carries. Continuing with personnel and policy. Can I get a motion to move 15-1 to 15-3-4?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
For everything. Personnel and policy. Personnel and policy. Personnel and policy right now.
Okay. Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Moving on to curriculum. Before moving on, I would like to make a motion to table 16.7 for further discussion.
Second.
Discussion on that?
Can we
Joanne?
could touch on the revisions that were looking to be made on that? Because I think there's some misconception that it's being taken away from the district, that part of the sex ed curriculum on 16.7. That's not in fact what we were looking to do.
No.
Right. So we weren't looking to take away that material. We're just changed to an at-home portion for grade. Excuse me. We can't conduct business here. We can keep shouting out from the audience. So what we were looking to do, just for clarification for some folks, was second grade is take home, fifth and sixth grade was going to be take home, and that was what was being altered on 16.7. Correct?
Correct.
Actually, second grade is already take home.
Right.
Just to clarify, it is take-home in second grade. What was taken away by grades 5 and 6 becoming take-home is the choice that we had in place for those grade levels. And that wasn't a recommendation of our staff members, but grade 2 was a recommendation of our professionals and our staff.
Okay, we're in the middle of a roll call, I think.
Yes.
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
No.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, now curriculum 16.1 to 16.6 and 16.8 to 16.13. Okay, a motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Okay, can I get a motion to move finance 17.1 to 17.6?
Motion.
Thanks, Walter. Second.
Second.
Christina. Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Operations, motion for 18.1 and 18.2.
Motion.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion? Joanne?
Ms. Keeling?
Yes.
Mr. Knapp?
Yes.
Ms. McMichael?
Yes.
Ms. Pitzer?
Yes.
Mr. Morris?
Yes. Does anyone have any old business? New business? Okay, moving on to public comment number 2. The board uses second public comment period to invite comments on all matters pertaining to the school district. Please state your name, municipality, and group affiliation if appropriate for the record. Each participant will receive 3 minutes to speak. Once you have had your allotted 3 minutes to speak, you will not be permitted to speak again. All statements should be directed to me as presiding officer. The board administration may or may not respond to any questions or comments after the conclusion of the public participation.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Grana, 4 Woodbine Lane in Sparta. I am a parent in the school district. I have kids in the schools. I haven't dealt with the issue of transgender or transitioning in my own home, but I am a high school teacher also in another county. And I do have a lot of interaction with kids that have that. And I just wanted to kind of say as a teacher, not to diminish the morality of everything and right versus wrong, but as a teacher, what we really want is for students to listen in the classroom. Like really what we want is our board and our fellow staff members, administrators to help us keep them engaged and protect them so they feel safe so that they learn. Because the biggest struggle is getting them to pay attention a lot of times. And when they're in an environment where they don't feel safe or they don't feel listened to or they don't feel heard, they're not going to listen to you. I teach art, which is a very subjective area. It's great for creativity and expression, and it's wonderful in that sense. But it must be impossible to teach Algebra 2 or calculus to a lot of kids that don't feel like they can even trust you with information that they trusted you with. So what just happened was taking that away from teachers that are really just trying to struggle a lot of times with getting them to stay engaged. And it's really disappointing, frankly. I love public education. I would imagine that Dr. Beck got into this because you love public education. What's happening is really disturbing because it seems like public education is just being shredded here in Sparta. And I don't know what recourse you and Mrs. Rossi have, but I really hope that you are working to figure that out, because basically 5 community
1 minute.
members just changed a lot about the student body and how they feel about their school district. And I think we really need you. We really need you right now, because that's not, in my opinion, how public education is supposed to work. I trust you all. I trust your staff. I trust your administrators. And I would love for the board and you to band together and trust them as well.
Scott Knoll, Sparta.
Did you sign in, Scott?
Yes, I did.
Okay, thank you.
I really want to be a supporter of this board, right? Like, you guys are the stewards of my kids. And I think what just happened was incredibly disingenuous. As a parent, as a community member, I am absolutely appalled. You called a vote on an issue. You saw a whole collection of people. I had a prepared statement to read to help you guys. I don't want to bash you guys. I don't come up here and do that. That's not me. I've written it. You knew that people had things to say. You said, you can't talk about that. You can't talk about that. Like, hey, that's cool. I'm on board. I'm on your side. I will wait till the second public comment. And I just got bent over. You called the issue, you called the vote, and you decided it before any of us got a chance to speak. You should all be incredibly ashamed of what just happened. It's ridiculous. The one benefit I see of it is an incredibly good education for these two and how politics work. You have set this district up to be sued. It's already happening in towns, and not sued by some rando, not sued by some upset parent, because that's going to happen, right? That's part of the game. By the state of New Jersey, you're going to have us be sued by our own government. We're already more than 5% over budget because of legal fees, and you're inviting it to just go through the roof for a policy we don't want.
1 minute.
We're good. Thank you for your time.
Before, I just make a comment, Caitlin. Just to speak on that gentleman's comment, we voted on a first reading. There will be a second reading in October, so it will be discussed again.
So Caitlin Gagnon, Sparta, just to clarify, you actually voted to rescind the policy, so now you have to create a new policy, which we're going to be paying him for, correct?
No.
We don't have to have another policy,
We don't
number
need another
one.
policy.
It's not a mandated
But
policy.
you're not revising the policy, you're recreating the policy, and we're going to need your supervision in order to do that, is that not? Or is her LTE wrong?
We're not, well, I don't understand, we're not rewriting, we're repealing a policy.
Right, you're
But it has to
repealing a
go through- it
policy,
has
so
to
a
go
new
through two
policy will be
meetings.
taking place in its place. Is that not incorrect? Is that incorrect?
No, it's not a mandated policy.
It's going to be
so
up to the
there'd be
board
nothing.
whether they want to craft a new policy or.
But a new
or-
policy
let me
would
finish. You
need
asked
to
a
be
question.
crafted if it's repealed. Is that not
No,
correct?
because it's not a mandated policy.
Wonderful. Either way, whatever. He's thrilled. We're going to pay him. So the point that I was going to make, I'm going to come up and ask again. And I think it's abysmal the way that that just took place. And I think his point was wonderful. This is a great lesson for you guys, I guess. I mean, if that's all we can offer. Dr. Beck and Ms. Rossi, I asked very specific questions. And I don't know if you tried. It looked like you tried to speak on that. And I don't know if you were stifled. That tends to be the case. So I'm going to ask you again. How do you feel about the fact that this will speak specifically to the curriculum, but you know what? Let's throw in 5756 while we're at it too. How do you feel about those policy revisions? On a personal note, as
We're going to respond.
No,
to
I'm not
the-
asking you. I'm
We're
talking
going
to
to respond.
them.
I'm talking about protocol of the meeting. We respond to public participation at the end of public comment so that we don't get into a back and forth and cut into your time. So continue.
Usually you answer at the end of the first public comment, though,
It's
and
up-
you weren't giving them the opportunity. In fact, you
I
told them
didn't-
not to.
That's
So I'm
definitely
gonna
not
continue-
correct.
You're taking away from my time, sir. As I was saying, how do you feel about these two policies? From the curriculum committee meeting minutes, it shows that these policies were just, in fact, personnel, it says that our board attorney explored options with our board members in that meeting. Curriculum committee meeting minutes reflect that it was the board majority that discussed changing this. Is that not administering the district? How do you feel about that? Do you think that that's overreach? Do you think that that's inappropriate? When you consider the fact that members of this very board just accepted awards from a local political committee group for their performance on this board, do you not think that they are administering our district in the most inappropriate way, where they spoke of transgender policies, where they spoke of teachers undoing their at-home lessons in the course of 2 days at middle school? Do you not find that radically inappropriate and unethical? And when they come up and make revisions to policies, and you let it happen without a word,
1 minute.
what are your thoughts on this? Are we going to face litigation as a result of these take-home lessons? Are we not singling out a select group and modifying curriculum based on discriminatory practices and based on a particular marginalized group? You're not sending the whole lesson home. You are sending home exclusively the lesson that relates to gender identity. Again, what are your personal thoughts on this matter? And when 80% of the Sparta public opted in and said, I choose public education, I choose our educated professionals to delegate these lessons to my child, what are you saying to 80% of the community? Dr. Beck and Ms. Rossi, I beg of you, at some point, even if it's in the hallway when this meeting is over, answer my questions.
Wait till the end. Wait till the end. Because I don't want to.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Ann O'Dare. I live on Pinecone Lane in Sparta. I'm here along with many others representing PFLAG Sussex County. PFLAG is the United States' first and largest organization dedicated to supporting, educating, and advocating for LGBTQ+ people and their families. We're here today to advocate in support of keeping transgender student guidance for school districts policy 5756, which provides needed protection for transgender students. The policy was developed by experts such as psychologists, counselors, pediatricians, in collaboration with those directly impacted, educators, advocates, and yes, even parents. In 2017, Policy 5756 was signed into law by Governor Chris Christie with strong bipartisan support. For the past 6 years, the policy has ensured that no one is treading on the civil rights of transgender students while not taking away parental rights. Why, after 6 years, has this become an urgent issue requiring school board focus and attention? This is a manufactured problem that encourages fear-mongering, bigotry, lies, and scapegoating of the LGBTQ+ community. Saying the policy keeps parents in the dark about their children, about their students, is a gross misrepresentation. In fact, the policy mandates that teachers must inform parents if their child is unsafe. At the same time, it helps protect a child who feels unsafe at home. And although we don't like to talk about this, some children are unsafe at home. Policy 5756 states that school district personnel should have an open discussion with the student to ascertain the student's preference on matters such as parental communications. It also states that, quote, due to a specific and compelling need such as the health and safety of a student or an incident of bias-related crime, a school district may be obligated to disclose a student's status. The school district should inform the student that the school intends to disclose the student's transgender status, and the student should be given the opportunity to personally disclose that information. This is part 1 of PFLAG's statement. My colleague is going to read part 2. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Sue Stone, and I live on North Shore Trail in Sparta. I'm continuing our statement on behalf of PFLAG, Sussex County, in support of Policy 5756. Transgender kids who live in a supportive home and believe they will be accepted and affirmed are more likely to come out to their parents and ultimately have parental support. This policy is in place to protect kids that are likely to not have parental home support. This policy ensures that schools encourage and support and offer counseling to facilitate parental support. It also protects the at-risk student from possible domestic abuse and even the threat of homelessness. The LGBTQ plus teen homelessness happens, and we've seen it in our community. For LGBTQ plus youth who experience family rejection and where school is unsafe, their risk of suicide is higher. But when an LGBTQ plus youth has at least one adult that they can trust, their risk drops by half. Policy 5756 can directly help to lower teen suicide in New Jersey. This policy is about protecting vulnerable students whose only safe environment may be their school. Dr. Beck. PFLAG was founded by parents, and by our Sussex County chapter is comprised mainly of parents. Many are parents of LGBTQ youth. We know how difficult it is for our children. And we know that even the most well-intentioned parents can struggle with their child coming out. We know that our children need to do it on their own terms, in their own time. None of us want to see this policy rolled back in Sparta. LGBTQ plus students and their parents are overwhelmingly advocating against the policy change. Those are the ones who will be affected by this change, and their voices should be the ones that matter.
Do I need to address myself? Jacob,
Yes.
Rutgers, New Brunswick. I'd like to start with a question for the board attorney. There was a vote to repeal policy 5756. Does that mean when students go back tomorrow, it will not be in place, or does that happen after the second read?
After the second reading.
Okay, so it still is in place. So I asked the board to think about what a school district looks like without 5756 in place. I'll start off by saying that Sparta takes over $6 million, a 13% increase from the state. So that is tax money that is coming from the state, from me, from a lot of people here who are from all across the state. So if you don't have this policy in place, what is this looking like? If 5756 is basically an implementation of New Jersey state law, which prohibits parental notification, which allows a student, it does. Maybe you want to get yourself a little more familiar with the law.
I am. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I don't know where that law degree came from, but thank you. But I definitely would like to say that it is New Jersey law, in addition, that a student is allowed to use the bathroom of their gender identity. That is New Jersey state law. That is what 5756 says. So if you're repealing 5756, where in your curriculum are you reflecting New Jersey state law? Where are you putting this down? I would like there to be a policy committee meeting to discuss what policy is going to replace 5756 to reflect this. How is it going to be reflected to the students, to the teachers in your district? How do they need to implement them in your district? If you're repealing 5756, you are giving them no guidance. You are not giving your staff the guidance that they need to implement New Jersey state laws. These are laws under the state of New Jersey. How are teachers going to implement them? This is going to lead to ethics violations. This is going to lead to lawsuits. And whose pockets are they coming out of? Not Sparta taxpayers. The New Jersey taxpayers. We are paying over $6 million for your school district annually. It increased 13% this year alone. You are subjecting yourself to ethics violations, to lawsuits, if you repeal this policy. Have something in place before you do it. I am not even coming up here and telling you whether or not to repeal it. Go ahead, but tell us what comes first. Tell us what policy is going to be in place. Tell us what you're doing to ensure that the people that you hired are getting the right info so that they follow the law.
Hello, my name is Juliet Sanchez, and I live in Sparta. So I've spent the last 4 years at Sparta High School, and it's been a tumultuous 4 years at that. And as many of you know, I've attended many of these board meetings, which probably isn't most students' first choice or my first choice of how to spend their Thursday nights. But I think it's very telling that this choice was made 2 meetings before the election. I think it's also very telling that half the board members are not here today for this vote. I think it's very telling that we're losing by Sparta High School, celebrated professionals are leaving and resigning day after day. And so I think it's very telling that you aren't listening to the voices of everyone here. And I feel it feels a little bit ridiculous to say, but I feel like I'm jaded at age 17. I've always really had a big interest in politics and the things going on in my community and like the wider community of my country and my state. But I feel like watching these meetings, I'm like losing hope. And it's difficult to watch as these elected officials don't listen. I mean, we had people, countless, I'm not even gonna go into the details of why this taking away of this policy with nothing there is ridiculous, because I think so many people have told you that, and you didn't listen. And that's so difficult as a 17-year-old who has a passion for all of these things and advocacy and politics and something I want to pursue in my further education. As I leave Sparta, I feel like, God, what am I going into if this is what's happening in my small town and this is what I'm watching? And I feel jaded, I feel disappointed, and I feel like it is so difficult for students and people my age to watch as you don't make eye contact with me, as you repeal these policies and don't listen to the opinions of everyone who spoke and especially not listening to the people who you are affecting. And so that's what I have to say.
So my name is Victoria Tynes. There has been some discussion about trans students needing to be outed to their parents if they, I believe, change their name or pronouns in school or identify as transgender. Some talk about parental rights, if you will. Have you considered that there's a reason that certain children may keep this from you? Teachers are now wasting their time emailing parents. Some parents speak of focusing on teaching, not gender, this indoctrination that your poor little children are facing. However, you contradict yourself by complaining and telling teachers to go out of their way to out students to their occasionally bigoted parents. And no one is to say that one's gender identity will be concrete. Gender identity can fluctuate and change, especially as we children mature. Someone might be cisgender, then later identify as non-binary, and even later identify as transgender. Even pronouns vary and change. Some people may go by she, her pronouns, or she, they, or he, him, or they, them, and etc. Safe spaces where there isn't the threat of being outed allows for students to truly explore their gender identity and support their mental health. Children having an outlet without being afraid of being outed is a mental health right. Using the proper pronouns or preferred name can save lives and prevent suicide. According to the Trevor Project's 2023 U.S. National Survey on Mental Health of LGBTQ+ people, it states 41% of LGBTQ young people seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and young people who are transgender, non-binary, and/or people of color reported higher rates than their peers. 56% of LGBTQ young people who wanted mental health care in the past year were not able to get it. Fewer than 40% of LGBTQ people found their home to be LGBTQ affirming. Roughly half of transgender and non-binary young people found their school to be gender affirming, and those who did reported lower rates of attempting suicide. Nearly 1 in 3 LGBTQ young people said that their mental health was poor most of the time or always due to anti-LGBTQ policies and legislation. Nearly 2 in 3 LGBTQ young people said that hearing about potential state or local laws banning people from discussing LGBTQ people at school made their mental health a lot worse. Access to affirming spaces among LGBTQ people, home was 38%, while school was 54%. Access to affirming spaces among transgender and non-binary young people, home was 35%, and school was 52%. I'll just leave it at that. Think about those statistics and how your actions and ideologies may correlate, and stop trying to push your own discriminatory policies.
Jen Hamilton, 37 Holland Circle. Hi, I came into this meeting late this evening, and I sure missed a whole lot. I think that really everything has been said about the decision to force this policy rescission through tonight. But I'm just going to speak about the policies and procedure that this board is supposed to follow. And I've spoken about this on multiple occasions. This is at least the 3rd time that I've raised this issue, perhaps the 4th, just since this current board has been seated. You have an attorney at the table. I wish he counseled you on this. However, you guys have a procedure to follow at this board table. You are required by the Open Public Meetings Act to notify the public when you plan to pass anything in the agenda. This is not on the agenda. It's the 4th time, Kurt, that you have raised an issue sitting at the board table and asked to take a vote on it sitting at the board table without the issue going to committee. This is a board of committees. That is the function of this board. It's how it's supposed to operate. If you want to raise an issue, if you want to talk about a policy, that's fantastic. The very first thing you should do in new business when we get to that section, which is never brought up, is you should say, hey, I have a policy that I would like the policy committee to look at. And then they go to committee, they look at the policy, they discuss it, they make educated, informed decisions, and they come back to this table with a recommendation from the superintendent, and then everybody votes. We don't operate on a whim. That's not how this board is intended to operate, and it's not how any public meeting is intended to happen. That's why we have requirements that you notify the public of what's going on. I heard walking in here because I was at my kids'
1 minute.
sporting event for the high school. So I heard walking in here for the first time today that you took a vote on something that's not on the agenda. Look around the table. There's no question that this was decided before today. That's a problem. That's all I have to say.
Hi.
You already spoke.
Yeah, I forgot to say one more thing.
You already spoke, that's it. Thank you.
Is there anybody else?
Why can't I speak again?
Because
It's at the discretion of the president.
Once you spoke once, you're done.
Well, I wasn't aware of that, so
Is
I'd
there
like to
anybody-
speak again.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
Is there anybody else that said I could take their chance?
We're not going
to be
It's
up
not
here?
about taking other people's time. It's
Why not?
Because
I didn't know that I
Ma'am,
wasn't.
This is not a debate.
I didn't know that
This is not a
I
debate.
wasn't able to speak again, and I would like to speak again.
We're going to give
said it.
anybody an opportunity who has not spoken to get up to the microphone. We welcome
Great.
you to
Who'd
speak.
like to come up here
But
so I
that doesn't
could
mean
just
we're going to
whisper in
allow
your
everybody
ear?
to speak. Just to be clear, though, we're not allowing everybody to speak again. That's.
Thank you.
As I stated previously, if you spoke once, you're done.
I didn't hear that.
Well, I
And I
stated
wasn't
it.
aware of it
I
until
stated-
now, or I would have said something.
Okay, well.
You don't need to be rude about
I'm
it.
not being rude. I stated it before
Oh,
public
you're completely
session.
rude, sir.
You're being rude
And
by
guess what?
overspeaking
Ma'am,
me.
can you
I
yield the
can't
microphone?
wait
Ma'am,
until we replace you.
Can you yield the
Good luck with
microphone
that.
to the.
And we will.
Good
Sir,
luck.
you're up.
Yeah, with 80% of the people, we
You
will.
can have a seat.
Go right ahead. Have a nice day.
You as well. Thank you.
Hi there. My name is Brent Rivers. I live in Long Valley, ELA supervisor here. I have two questions, and one of them is about the board and the practice of the board and the procedures and politics. And the other question is an academic question and is really just more kind of about teaching and learning. From a policy perspective and from the delivery of this work, I'm just curious about what is communicated unofficially, right, to our staff, to our students. I understand, of course, that the board is really interested in what they legally can do, and obviously you're a legal body, and so that is of utmost concern. But these decisions have impacts, and these impacts communicate things to our staff and to our students. And a lot of that impact is implicit, right? It is not explicit. And so I just want to know what we will do to communicate to those students, to those staff members, that we do care about them, that we will keep them safe. The opening line of the policy that was repealed today guarantees that our district will provide a safe learning environment for transgender students. By repealing that policy, my question is, what are we doing to provide that safe policy for those students? Because they're going to see repealing it as repealing that safe place for them. So I understand maybe there's not a new policy, but there has to be something to communicate to these people that they matter, because to our school they matter, even if not elsewhere. My other question is an academic one, and that is just about, do students learn better in school or at home? Many members of this board were very vocal about COVID policies, COVID protocols, COVID quarantines, and I'm just curious as to why, in light of those very vocal, very public opinions, some very specific lessons are being taught at home. And I'm wondering if the expectation is that they will be taught at home with the same fidelity that a licensed, certified professional would, like some of the ones who spoke here tonight. So again, some of those are political, some of those are academic, but those are things that our staff members and our students are really concerned about, even before the specific decisions of this meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Sanchez. I live in Sparta, New Jersey. That's the part that, like what Mr. Rivers was saying, like taking this policy away, like what message are you sending to these kids? And, you know, it affects 1%, like a small percentage of kids, but it affects them so deeply. And the kids who don't have a safe place to call home, like it affects them like, I think beyond what any of you can really imagine, because unless you're on the front lines with your own kid, you have no clue what you are talking about. And I want to send a message to those children, in the words of one of the best moms I know and a good friend, to those kids. I say give them my number, because they will have a safe place with love and acceptance at my home if they can't find it with you.
Thank you. Is there anybody else? Did you sign in, Kate, or no? You can do it after. Just do it after, or now, whatever.
Just for the sake of speaking about this, Kate Madison, 22 Saddle Ridge Road, Sparta. I just wanted to point out to Dr. Beck, there's really no one else here that is there any point in speaking to, except for you two. Thanks for being here. We have several surrounding school districts. None of them are suffering with this turn of events. Why is that? Because they've made the decision, no matter what side of the political spectrum they fall on, to leave partisan politics off of their Board of Ed. And I personally know Board of Ed members throughout the county who are of differing political parties and have chosen on purpose to leave this off, this kind of drama. That's not even a very good word for it, strife, off of their Board of Eds. But what do we have here in Sparta? What makes us so different? What makes it that we're going to be the next Marlboro? Well, we've got the lawyer who wants to help it happen. We had a great lawyer, Rod Harrow, before this, who kept us out of legal trouble. And when I came on the board, that's what I was told. A board lawyer is to keep your school district out of legal trouble, not to advise you on the ins and outs of how to carry out something that's nefarious legally. But we also have board members who voted tonight who only September 7th, I believe, just accepted actual awards as board members from the Sussex County Republican Committee. And at those awards, they all stated what their goals were. And they all stated that they were going to accomplish them this year on our board. So when you take your oath of office, and one of those oaths is to not make decisions based on partisan politics, and 2 weeks later you're repealing the transgender policy that over 500 districts use to govern their school district.
1 minute.
You have a partisan Board of Education that's wreaking havoc in this school district and yet almost nowhere around us in Sussex County. And what did the vice chair of the Sussex County Republican Party say that night? She said, get a lawyer who listens to you and who will do what you want, and get a superintendent who makes sure they know they work for you. And it looks like there's a perfect situation going on here. And I think you guys better just be sure you're betting on Sparta Township residents to not be sick and tired of this within the next month and a half, because I truly don't feel the majority of this township wants this upon us. Take your politics home. I supported you. I've supported Republicans. I've supported people of all parties. That was 4 years ago when this wasn't happening. And Dr. Beck, you're here now for 5 years. It's time to stand up. We want you to do well, and we support you.
Thank you, Kate.
We do support you. We will have your back.
That's time.
Dana Galino, 26 Valley View Trail. So I am so upset. I had a second speech that I wrote, but I just don't even know where it is. So I came up here to maybe make you guys a deal. Please leave the trans kids alone. Take your hate and you can channel it to me, okay? Kurt, you can give me all the speeding tickets that you want, okay? I'm not kidding. You can call me a groomer, you guys can call me pedophile. I will not, please, give me your hate and take it off of them. And don't hurt the trans kids because they're hurting already. And the little bit of protection that we can give them, we can't take that away. So if you could just, in your heart, and honestly, I don't care, you wanna hit me at the tricky tray, I'll take it. Like, I don't care. Please, don't interrupt me.
Well,
Don't interrupt me.
Don't speak. to your thoughts.
Kurt, come
I'm just
on.
telling you. You did it
You
once.
just voted to potentially put 30 Sparta kids at risk, and you're supposed to be protecting the kids, and you put bad parents now in a position where they're going to have a reason to hurt these children. Don't do that. Put it on me. Hurt me. I don't care. Hurt me. Dina Galino, you all know where I live. I say it all the time. Do it to me. Stop hating the kids. I'm serious. Don't hurt the trans kids. Please.
Anybody else? Motion to close. Walter, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Discussion. I'll start. I don't hate anyone. Dana, I don't hate you. Never will. I don't hate you. All the
Gotta please stop calling out.
things that happened here tonight, none of it was done on hate. And to answer the gentleman's question, New Brunswick, I forgot your name. I think you answered your own question with your comments. The majority of this is governed by state law, so it'll still follow. That's not going to change. So everything is governed by state law, just like you stated at the microphone. So everything you were stating about bathrooms, that's not going to change. That's still in place because that's governed by the state law. And Mr. Rivers, yes, it's a work in progress. It'll be discussed. And like I said, it's a first reading. We'll have another reading in October. So obviously, it's a work in progress. So come tomorrow morning when you go to school, the policy is still intact until October. Okay.
We're not going to
Yeah.
debate it.
Per our bylaws, it goes to a second reading. Okay, and then to discuss, I did table the curriculum portion. It was discussed I was in curriculum. It was discussed at length. 3 options were given to us. It was to go back to the old way, get rid of sex ed completely. We decided that's not an option. It was to keep it as it is or make some portions sent home. And we went with the happy medium. So obviously that was tabled and for further discussion. Well, it's really. Okay, well. It's not up to you. Yeah, well. That's all I have to say in those comments. Do you have any comments?
Yeah. Kurt, can I piggyback off of Kurt? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
okay?
go ahead.
Okay.
Knock yourself
We have talked about this for 20-plus months. It's a complex topic, and there's a lot of different feelings about it. And I think what I appreciate about your attempt and ability to understand that when we are making decisions about curriculum or about really anything, we can't bring our opinions into it. We have to use what we know are instructionally sound practices. And we've been working together on this board now for a long time, and I appreciate you really trying to understand and reconcile that, and tabling that to allow us more time for those conversations reflects that. We do use research, data, feedback, numbers. We're not guessing. We're not just taking a stab in the dark. We're collaborating with high-performing districts, and so it is true that our recommendation is not to send that policy, that lesson home exclusively. We do believe, especially related to complex matters, there should be choices that are provided. We do have those in place right now, and we do believe that all students should be supported and know that, we're here, we have their back, we see them, and we care for them. So I look forward to continued conversation about this, and I look forward to continuing to instill values and instructional practices that everyone deserves in the public education system.
And I'll just speak to the policy revision. I'll speak to the process in general, and I'll speak to specifically 5756. and the discussion that surrounded that. So, as I've stated before in board meetings, the Board of Education doesn't have many powers, but one of those powers is to set policy. That is what the Board of Education does. So when the Board of Education comes to me or comes to me and Tara in committee, depending on what the situation is, with the idea for a policy revision, we give our opinions and we give our input. And this 5756 in particular, I was asked how I felt about the possibility of revising it, the possibility of repealing it. My initial concern that I stated was that all policies help us govern the district, and it helps us as administrators to govern the district because it's clear, and it's right there, and it's easy to cite. This particular one, this particular policy, 5756, there are many components to it that thankfully are rooted in statute. So just because that policy gets repealed does not mean that those statutes are not still in place, which I was glad for. So those policies are pertaining to, and they were brought up tonight, the idea of transgender use of restrooms, facilities, transgender participation in athletic events. Those matters, policy or no policy, those matters are locked into statute and will still exist in our district. So I did, again, mention in the committee meeting that ideally they remain in policy and the policy is easy to cite and it's easy for the community to see and so on. And then regarding the one line in the policy that would imply that we are not allowed to notify parents with notification, with knowledge of transgender students, that part is unclear and that part is not statute. So when it was brought to me that maybe we would repeal this or maybe we would pull that line out, I asked for and will continue to work for guidance as to what that means. If we are not obligated to notify parents, then what is our obligation and under what circumstances? Because, as I stated, the safety and well-being of our students is of the utmost priority. And I understand that in some cases, maybe it would be in the best interest for parents to be notified, and under other circumstances, it might not be in the best interest of the student for the parents to be notified. So with this policy going through a first reading tonight, I and the board committee have some work to do to figure out exactly what that would look like if the board, in fact, decides to go through the second reading and appeal that. Oh, and I wanted to comment on Ms. Madison implying that that the board should find a superintendent that works for them. If you look at who is present tonight, there are 5 board members present tonight. Only 1 voted on my contract, in favor of my contract. So I don't think that was a fair statement.
That was me.
We're not getting into a back and forth.
It was discussed in committee and it was on the committee agenda.
Are you talking about the motion to repeal the policy? The Open Public Meetings Act says the agenda to the extent known. So if something's not known, that doesn't mean necessarily. Do you want an answer to the question? You're going to call out, so you don't want to hear the answer to the question. So to answer your question, the Open Public Meetings Act says that we publish the agenda to the extent known. If it's not known ahead of time definitively that it's going to be brought up or made as a motion, it does not have to be on the agenda. That's the law. I'm not going to discuss attorney-client privileged advice, and nor should the board. Okay.
Policy 5756 is on the committee agenda.
Yes. You know that. Legal advice falls under attorney-client privilege. We're not going to discuss in a public forum the advice that I gave to the board or the committee.
Okay. Anyone else have anything? Okay. Moving on to the good of the order. Does anyone have good of the order? No? Okay. Yeah. Okay, can I get a motion to adjourn? Motion. Walter, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.